hear me? Great.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Everybody having fun? All right, we're having fun. I'm Justin Boyan. I'm a product manager in the Google Cambridge, Mass. office.
And I'm Josh Ayen. I'm a software engineer, also in the Google Cambridge office.
And we are going to do a deep dive into 4 tools that Google is providing to help webmasters and people who author HTML provide a structured view of their data to Google and other search engines. So before we get started, how many of you actually have a website or work for an organization that has a website? Okay, who the heck doesn't have a website? How many of you have written HTML for that website or others? Okay, every kid these days knows how to write HTML. Now, how many of you have included structured markup in that HTML? Microformats, microdata, RDFA, OGP. Okay, about half. Perfect. So, I mean, that's what we're seeing on the web as well. And this talk, we're going to cover 2 kinds of tools. Tools for those of you who have already put structured markup into your HTML, and those of you who haven't yet and need a little boost getting started. So, 4 tools we're going to demo are, for those of you who already have structured markup, the structured data testing tool, the structured data dashboard, and then for those of you who are just getting started with providing structured data on your websites, the data highlighter tool, which is launched yesterday with 7 additional data types, and the structured data markup helper, an all-new tool that launched yesterday. So, just if you missed the last session, I'm going to briefly recap why are you interested in providing a structured semantic view of your data to Google. And it's because Google is going well beyond the sort of plain vanilla 10 blue links in response to search. We want to provide answers, anticipation, and enhanced presentation of the results, which we can do if we understand the structure of the data on your web pages. So for starters, there are rich snippets. If you provide structured information about your event listings or your product listings, your recipes, the review content on your sites, and other similar data formats, we can highlight your search results with enhanced treatment that helps users find what they're looking for quicker. For recipes, we go a bit further and actually provide search tools that allow users to filter the results based on the structured content in your pages. So certainly if you're searching for a chocolate chip cookie recipe, you want to exclude the recipes with pecans and walnuts, because that's an atrocity. And we provide you the ability to do that, powered by structured markup in web pages. We are integrating with the knowledge graph. So if you provide reviews of movies, say, when a user searches for a movie, we can highlight that data right in front and center in the knowledge graph presentation for that movie. And for events, we've got a lot of treatments. So launching just a couple days ago is this events carousel, we call it. Somebody comes in searching for events in a city. I believe this was launched US only. We feature a nice carousel of the most popular events in that city. We also, as Jason showed last session, will blend in events from web data into searches for a band or for a venue. And these event data items are also showing up in mobile interfaces like Google Now. So to make your data eligible to participate in all these cool enhanced search treatments, you need us to understand the structure of the data. And there are many ways of doing that. Our sort of #1 recommendation is to use microdata with schema.org vocabulary. What do you think? Is that easy enough?
Looks kind of difficult to me, Justin.
Yeah, it's not that bad, but we do recognize there are many competing formats. There are microformats, microdata, RDFA, OGP, et cetera, and it can be confusing for webmasters to know exactly what they're supposed to do and what they're supposed to provide. So that's where our team is working hard to try to make things easier. So let's get into the demos. We'll start with the 2 tools that help you check existing markup that you've already applied to web pages. The structured data testing tool, this is the situation where you have a single web page, you want to check if you've applied markup the right way. It's a validation tool. Anybody can go use this tool. You don't even need to be logged in. You go to the Webmaster Tools Rich Snippets site, paste in the URL, or actually the source HTML of your page, and Google will show you what we understand of the structured data on that page. So to demonstrate this tool, I have brought on the pretend webmaster for a local museum, the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. We don't actually have a pre-existing relationship with SF-MoMA, but just for demo purposes, Josh will pretend to be the SF-MoMA webmaster.
1 second. So hello. As you can clearly see by my hat, I'm the webmaster of the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. Just kidding. I don't actually have any knowledge of whether the webmaster of San Francisco Museum of Modern Art wears a hat like this or does any of the other things I'm going to do. But for the purpose of motivating this example, I'm talking about the motivations of this webmaster. So I have events going on at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and I would like to make sure that as many people as possible know about these upcoming events. If you're staying in town next week after Google I/O, or if you live here, we've got a great event going on, the Agent Ruby Files. This is based on sort of an AI art and exploration project that goes on, and I think it's really interesting. So if you're here, you should check it out. I want to make sure everybody knows about that, and I want Google to share details about this event.
But we're not showing rich snippets for that event.
Right, we're not showing rich snippets right now, I know that, and I want to figure out why. So I've already added structured markup to this page, and I'm going to take the URL of this event and go over to the Google Structured Data Testing tool and paste in this URL. I could also paste in HTML if I hadn't published the URL yet. And I'll say preview. So here, I see the search treatment, which I already know I'm getting for the event, and it's just a normal search result. There's nothing event-specific about it. If I scroll down further, I can see that Google does pick up the structured data that I've added to the site, but so why isn't my event showing up?
Well, you've got your micro formats there. You've shown the start date and summary and description of the event, but you haven't given us a location we can understand.
So if I add, so here I can learn that I need to add the location, and then maybe I can get event treatment. Let's try that out.
Yeah, so if the real webmaster of SF-MoMA were to go back and fix up the micro format to connect in the location properly, then re-previewing in the structured data testing tool would show that, there you go, the rich snippet line, which shows clearly the date and location of that event. And also seeing that preview in the rich snippet will also indicate that Google has understood the data in a way that's usable and makes the event eligible for all the other search presentations of events.
There we go. That's much better. That's exactly what I want.
Thanks. All right, we'll move on to the structured data dashboard. So this goes beyond single page validation. Here again, you are a webmaster who has already applied markup to your site, perhaps over a variety of different pages and a variety of different types. And you would like to understand holistically whether Google is picking up your data correctly. So log into Webmaster Tools, which you need to be verified for, and go to the structured data dashboard. To demonstrate that, I'll bring back my SF-MoMA webmaster.
Hello, I'm still the webmaster of San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. And I'm going to go into my structured data dashboard. Here it is. I'm already a verified webmaster of my site, of course. And I can see Google's understanding of the structured data on my site over time. So I haven't made any significant changes to my structured data recently, and that's why these lines are pretty flat. But if I just added a lot of structured data, you could see when Google recrawls the site and when Google picks it up. I can also see what Google knows. Google knows about 23,500 items split over 15,500 pages. And they're split into two different types of structured data, H-cards, or contact information, and H-calendars, or events. And I've got 9,000 events. If I want more details on Google's understanding, I can just drill in here and see a bunch of different example pages that have H-calendars and Google's interpretation of them. Now, to go back to the example we were looking at, I know that the URL of the Agent Ruby files ends in 2295, because as a good webmaster, I know I've memorized every URL on my website. And so I have the agent Ruby files. I can see that that's the same page we were looking at earlier. And when I click on it, we'll bring up details. There they are. We'll bring up the details of Google's understanding. So similar to what I saw earlier in the testing tool, only now I can easily see it on lots of different pages, one after another.
Right. So it's essentially like applying the structured data testing tool to your whole site simultaneously and getting an overview. And right now, the dashboard team is hard at work integrating error information in a really nice way into that dashboard display. You'll be seeing that roll out early this summer, I hope, although we don't like to pre-announce things. But here's a mock of what it's going to look like. So it features quite clearly along the top row what different classes of errors we've observed in your structured data markup, and then we surface those pages with errors on them to the top. So the idea is to really help webmasters debug problems in their markup so that Google can understand it clearly. Okay, so that concludes the first half of tools that we're providing to people who are already using markup on their pages. Now let's shift gears to those of you who don't yet have markup and aren't yet explaining your structured data to Google. How do you start participating in all the enhanced features that structured data enables? We're going to show two fancy and slick tools. The first is Data Highlighter. Data Highlighter launched in December for events. As of yesterday, it is now available for 7 additional types of data, almost all of the rich snippet data formats that Google supports. Data Highlighter is a tool that's like the dashboard built into Webmaster Tools and allows you, without actually changing the HTML of your pages at all, to get a taste of what structured markup could do for you. So how can Google get an understanding of your structured data without you editing your HTML at all? It works by machine learning and a point-and-click UI. So you actually start with a sample page that contains the kind of data you would like Google to understand. You apply a point-and-click tagging operation to label the key data fields on those pages. And then Google extrapolates the pattern of the tags that you've applied to other similar pages on your website. So we'll have Josh demonstrate how the Data Highlighter tool works. But let's bring in a different webmaster. I'd like to call up the webmaster of the 826 Valencia Pirate Supply Store.
Hold on, let me get him. Arr! I'm the webmaster of 826 Valencia, San Francisco's only independent pirate supply store. And so I hope if you have any pirate supply needs while you're in town, you know where to go. As an independent, now, again, I'm not really the webmaster. This is just, for example, explaining how somebody might use this tool. So I'm a busy shop owner. I don't have a lot of time to go and add every feature to my website. What I care about is making sure people know about my store, know what's in stock, and know about my important events. So Talk Like a Pirate Day is coming right up, and people need their pirate gear for that. I want to make sure that they can find all of my products on Google when I do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my URL, a URL for one of my favorite products, the hook, copy it, and go into Webmaster Tools Data Highlighter. So that's just under Optimization. And I'm a verified webmaster, of course. But I just don't have time to add all of the markup to my page. I'm going to train Google how to fetch the data. So I'm going to paste the URL in for my hook and choose a type of data I want to highlight. So this is a product. I want to tell people how to buy it. And I want to tag this page and others like it. I just want to tag all the product pages on my site. So let's get started.
OK, so once you've told us about that first sample URL, we're going to load the page in and instrument it for this point-and-click tagging operation.
So I can see here on the right are the fields that Google's interested in about a product, so a name, an image, price information. And here's my web page, along with some guidance on what I have to do to share this data. So I'm going to just highlight this hook, the name of my product, and then I get this interface that lets me tell Google what this data means. So this is the name of my product. Down here, we have a price. And here's an image for my hook. And I think that's enough information. There's other fields, but I don't have ratings or reviews on my site. So I think that's enough. I'll click Done.
Okay,
now, what's this, Justin?
Yeah, at this point, we're looking at the structure of your website and finding a URL pattern that seems to contain similarly formatted web pages. And so in this case, we're guessing that /store/product/star might be the set of pages that you're interested in sharing with us.
So, as any good webmaster or shop owner knows, I know all the URLs on my website, and I know that all of my products fall under that pattern. So it looks great to me. I'm going to create a page set and keep going.
All right, now at this point, we're going to suggest a few more examples of pages from within that URL pattern and get him to confirm that we've understood them correctly. We'll try and look for pages that maybe don't fit the pattern, they're formatted a little differently.
So here I can see the powder horn, which is $38, and the data that I expect is showing up here on the right, indicating Google's understanding. Looks good to me. I'll click Next. The sea hose also looks like Google understands what that means. I'll click Next. Holiday card bundle looks good to me. And individual signs. Yep, just $4. So
Okay.
I guess I'm done with 5 examples.
Yeah, it doesn't always go that smoothly, but you're training a pattern recognition system. So if your site has more variability than this one, you may have to clear some of our incorrectly guessed tags and correctly reapply those tags. But generally, after 5 or sometimes 10 pages, we will have understood your pattern, and you can click through to the next phase.
Great. I'll click Done and keep going.
Yep, so this is the final review. We provide a wider sample of pages that you can quickly skim through just to check, again, sort of sanity check that we're pulling the right kind of information from the set of pages you gave us.
So I see. I can just review all of these pages, and all of these look like the products I have in stock. It doesn't look like Google's made any mistakes. So I'm done.
Yeah, hit Publish. And that will actually install the pattern recognition into the Google crawling algorithms so that in the future, as we gather updated information from your site, we will interpret that structured data as if you had applied markup to the pages directly.
But when do I get snippets? I want to make sure that I have them for Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Okay, well, as we recrawl your site, those snippets will start appearing. I think Talk Like a Pirate Day is when?
September.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Justin.
All right. So again, Data Highlighter, as of yesterday, supports 8 types of data. That's in addition to events, articles, local businesses, movies and movie reviews, products, as you just saw, restaurants, software applications, and TV episodes. So if your website has any of those kinds of data on it, you can get a sort of quick jump into the world of structured data by applying Data Highlighter, as you just saw. You don't even need to modify your actual website. Of course, there's a downside to using Data Highlighter, which is only Google will have that pattern recognition installed after you do this process. So it will make your snippets available on Google, but it's not sort of nicely sharing that data with the rest of the open web. And we're sensitive to that. We recommend that you do transition to implementing full markup on your site when you can. But having said that, it is a great and easy way to get started, sort of exploring what markup will do for your site. When you are ready to transition to markup, we are announcing, as of today, a new tool, Structured Data Markup Helper, which is also available for all those same data types you just saw in Data Highlighter. You, again, apply the same sort of point-and-click tagging operation to a sample web page on your site. And this time, instead of trying to fancily learn the pattern of your whole site, what we're going to do is recommend microdata and schema.org markup that you can then copy into your HTML source. So to demonstrate how Structured Data Markup Helper works, I'd like to send away the pirate and bring on the webmaster, the pretend webmaster, of the Computer History Museum down in Mountain View.
Hello, everybody. As you can clearly see by my Nintendo Entertainment System hat, I'm the webmaster of the Computer History Museum. I'm a big aficionado of all things computer. I'm not actually the webmaster. I'm not sure that he has this sort of a hat, but I hope that he does. Regardless, I know I'm very excited about structured markup. I have events on my site. I want to share them with the world. But there's a lot going on in the Computer History Museum, and I haven't had time to add the markup yet. And I'm really excited for Google to help me do that. Now, I know a lot about the history of computers, and I see where we're going, and I see structured markup as the future of computing on the web, and I want the Computer History Museum to be a part of that, for sure. So to get started, I'm going to take this URL of my upcoming events, copy it, and go into the Structured Data Markup Helper. So here in the Structured Data Markup Helper, I'll paste in my URL into this field. I could also paste in HTML if I was building a new site and hadn't put it online yet. And then choose what type of data I want to tag. So here I want to tag events. Once I'm done with that, I'll go ahead and start tagging.
We'll instrument the page for point-and-click tagging, just like we did in Data Highlighter.
So here we go. That's the same page that we were just looking at. And I've got my fields for events, the fields that Google's interested in for an event. So I'll go ahead and highlight my first event. There's the name. Here's the date. Here's an image to go with the event. And I think that's enough.
Yeah, well, you've got multiple events on that page. I'm afraid you're going to have to keep on tagging.
OK, I'll do my second one. And oh, what just happened there, Justin?
OK, a little bit of magic. When we recognize there's a repeated structure of HTML on your page, we'll go ahead and automatically suggest the rest of the tags on that page, so you don't need to do them all one by one.
So that looks right. Looking at the tags, it looks like the whole page is filled in with all of my events. And even notice that the first two events have images, but subsequent events did not. And it was OK with that. Looking at the right, I can review my data. And all of my events are there. So I guess I'm done.
Yep, go ahead and create HTML. And here's where we'll show you sample markup that you can go ahead and apply to your site. So you'll see highlighted in yellow on the right-hand side all our recommended additions. So scrolling down there, you see we have suggested an item type of schema.org/event and several item props for the date and name and image on those events.
So it looks
you can
great.
also see we've shown you how to normalize the date into the recommended schema.org ISO 8601 format.
Well, that's great. And I can just take these new sections and add them to my templating system, and then I'll have markup.
Right on.
Now, is this everything that I need then? I'm done?
Well, let me tell you about an unfortunate experience that my friend at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art had.
Oh, I know him well. He's a good guy.
Yeah, well, he didn't connect up the locations to his events properly. I think you better go back and add location.
Let's see if we can fix that. So I've got the location up here, the Computer History Museum.
Oh, God, that's an image. How's that going to work?
So I'll tag that as the location name.
OK, yes. In this case, the alt text on the image, as frequently as the case, corresponds to the sort of semantic content of what that image represents. So we've just pulled the alt text in. We also noticed that it was structurally outside the scope of the events on the page, and so we've distributed that location down and put it in each of the events.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's in each of my events rather than just the first event. Perfect.
Right.
Let's see the HTML that creates.
Right. So it's here it's become a little bit more complicated because of the non-hierarchical nature, the non-self-contained nature of the events. So the recommended markup uses a feature of microdata called itemref. So it shows you how to do that. A little more complicated, but still gives you something to work from as you implement markup on your site.
Looks great to me.
OK.
Thanks, Justin.
Yes, that is the Structured Data Markup Helper. It is available to any logged in Google user. You do not need to be a webmaster to use Markup Helper. It, like I said before, is available for the same 8 data types the Data Highlighter is. So there they are on the screen. In addition, we are supporting the smart email schemas that were announced yesterday and will be discussed further this afternoon. So if you want to annotate an HTML email with information about a flight reservation or a hotel reservation, things like that, this tool will help you add markup to that email as well. And so it will output in JSON LD format as well as microdata.
So that's very exciting. I believe there's sessions at 2:15 or somewhere around then this afternoon. You should definitely check it out as well.
So that basically concludes our 4 demos. Again, in summary, we've got 2 tools that help you validate markup that you've already applied to your site. We've got Data Highlighter that lets you test the waters of structured markup by very quickly, without even having the access or the time to modify your website, show Google how to understand it. And when you are ready to start adding markup at first, there's the new Markup helper. And that's all we've got. We'd be very happy to take questions.
And we also have some shirts for you on the way out. Would you like to show them the shirts, Justin?
Yes, without...
It's this flannel shirt. No, just kidding.
Nice flannel shirts. Don't you worry about a schema.org thing.
So those are on the way out if you're interested. Thank you.
Hi, let's say I work for a large retailer that has, hundreds of thousands of products on the web. Can you help me give a business case to my bosses to tell them, we really need to open this up? Obviously, it's like creating a new available marketplace of getting just the information out there for all kinds of people to consume that kind of data is one of the big reasons. Are there other ways that you would recommend doing that?
So just to repeat the question, I think what I heard was working for a big retailer with lots of products, how do you make the business case for the value of adding this markup and what it gets you? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, right. I mean, the basic sell is enhanced presentation in search results. So if you're a retailer and when your organic search results don't show that product and price-rich snippet, then you're missing out on the chance to really show people, my product's in stock. This is the cost of my product. It's really for sale, and it's got a 4-star review. So it's, the intent is to make the more relevant data available to users so the people who come to your site are knowing what they're getting.
So it's one less click, so they don't have to click through to see that same information.
They don't have to click through, but also you're giving them a reason to click through by telling them it's in stock and providing the other important information, the information that we find people are most likely to look for to entice them to click on your links and come to your site.
Hi, just a quick question about how are you handling JavaScript?
Okay, yeah, we do our best. So are you talking about in Data Highlighter or?
Yeah, because a lot of data and especially images are provided through dynamically through JavaScript.
Yeah, we do our best to actually execute the JavaScript and provide you sort of access to the rendered version of the page post JavaScript.
Yeah, at a technical level, we're not showing you the raw HTML. We are rendering the page in a browser and then showing that to you. So it doesn't work 100% of the time, but most of the time, if you have JavaScript that's executing on load to show images, etc., those will show up in the version that we display in Data Highlighter and Markup Helper.
Okay, and if we have navigation through images, is that something that you would, you don't actually follow navigation, do you?
We don't follow navigation, okay. That's right.
Right, so we do allow you to tag a link if that's if that's an important piece of information, but we're not navigating the site.
Hi, I'm Akeem, and my question is with relation to the last example. So you applied the structured markup to a list of events. I wanted to know, one, what is the best practice there versus putting the markup on the list page versus the detail page?
Yeah.
And is it that in the search results, is it going to link to the list page?
Great question. Both. We recommend you do both.
Okay.
If you can. So the listing pages often are higher ranked in search and are going to get more views, and so it's great if the structured data is available there. For events in particular, there is a rich snippet treatment that will show multiple events associated with a single page, up to, I forget, 3 or 4 of them, but will provide separate links from the list page it'll actually provide multiple links right off that snippet into the details pages. So,
Okay, so if you're showing something like, let's say, restaurants, is it that I can show basic restaurant data on the list page, like in the structured markup? Should I also show like reviews in that markup, or should I limit that to, let's say, the detail page markup?
I honestly don't know the answer to that. I know for a details page that markup will be featured, and I'm not sure whether multiple reviews on a listing page would get a special treatment in the rich snippet for that listing page. I'm not sure.
But there's the picture of what happens right now at Google, and there's the picture of what's going to happen in 6 months. I think that the more structured data that we all add to the web, the more we can do with structured data. And so we have motivations that are current, and then the more data that accumulates, we can add more motivations and more uses of it.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Dario. I'm working in a large e-commerce platform. So I'd like to know, with this structured data, if you add some specific data like stock and it's very dynamic, how often is it queried or things to show accurate data?
You're asking how often is the data
is there any special treatment for very dynamic data?
For very dynamic data. I think the Google crawl is very dynamic. So, we are just responding to the data as we see it in the Google crawl, but the crawl itself is very dynamic and does a lot of kind of self-adjusting to, depending on the kind of site and how often we detect that its core content is updating. So, in that sense, it sort of depends on your site and the properties of the crawl, but we can't really influence that much based on structured data.
And on another side, is there a plan to add this kind of structured data to products like AdWords? For the text ad, sometimes it's very difficult to generate a specific text ad for each ad group, so it could be a good idea.
That is a great idea for a future Google product.
So you're saying to generate ads based on the structured data on your
Yes,
site.
like add a schema text ad, like a template, and fill the data. It's like an improvement for keyword insertion.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a wonderful idea to have that sort of collaboration, but there's no announcement of anything like that planned as far as I know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are there plans to add more data types or potentially let users define their own objects with the data points and then highlight them and map them?
Yeah, we haven't thought about sort of letting users extend that set of types that are available to tag. But there certainly are plans for us to expand that list. We're basically, we're growing this product from scratch and trying to get a sense of how accurate the data is that comes in through it. And we're also careful not to get too far ahead of ourselves in exposing schemas that Google isn't making much use of yet. Mm-hmm. So we don't want to make people do a bunch of work.
How long has the data highlighter been available? This is the first I actually had heard of.
Yeah, it launched in December, kind of quietly with a blog post on the Webmaster Central blog. Mm-hmm. And as of yesterday, it's sort of expanded just beyond events to these 8 data types. It's also available in 40 languages.
Yep.
One last question. What are some of the biggest challenges that you still have to solve for it that potentially Google or other people could help with?
Biggest challenges for
like you mentioned that it's not perfect. Some pages won't work. Are there any specific things that the community could help with in any fashion?
Well, okay, the data highlighter tool, which is machine learning based, is there's always going to be a limit to what a pattern recognition tool can do, especially if your site is excitingly variable. So markup is always the safer choice for where you can be very specific and explicit about what the data is on each and every page, regardless of how it's formatted. Nevertheless, we're always working to improve the pattern recognition so it does work more smoothly on a higher percentage of sites. With Markup Helper, there's a challenge because actually there are many ways to generate the structured data markup for a given page. And so we're continuing to refine that. This is an initial launch, but we're looking at ways to simplify its output, always generate kind of the easiest, most intuitive form of the markup. So that's another focus.
Cool. The other piece that I just add to your earlier point, Data Highlighter was launched in December, Markup Helper launched today, Structured Data Dashboard launched last summer. There's a lot of work going on here. We're trying to improve the experience, and we understand that there's a lot of options. We want to make it easier for you. So if you have pain points using structured data that are not being addressed, come talk to us. We'd love to learn about them.
Yeah, and we will be after lunch at the third floor Knowledge Sandbox. And also there is the Webmaster Tools Forum, which is open, and that's where we sort of monitor people's feedback on these tools.
Oh, sorry, it's me again. Is it that the structured data that you put into the site, is that going to be pulled into like stuff like maps and some of the other things that were shown with regards to like Google Plus and stuff like that?
We are sensitive about pulling data from people's web pages out of the context of those web pages because we realize we're in an ecosystem. And but having said that, we are always looking for the best possible user experience. So we want to sort of do the best job of both answering users' questions and directing them to the authoritative owners of web content. So yes.
Yeah, I think G+ will definitely use structured data in sometimes the same vocabularies, sometimes different vocabularies to preview the content of a page that's shared. And otherwise, we're using structured data now or planning to use it wherever it makes sense. We have enough coverage and we have the right motivation with the webmaster.
I help manage a large commerce site, so we have a .com and then a mobile property as well. The mobile property is powered by an API. All the content data is the same, but it's just a different backend. So we use the structured data on the big site. On the mobile site, though, we don't use structured data. Is that a problem? Should we be using structured data for the mobile property as well?
Good question. So you mean like a mobile website? You're not talking about an app?
No, it's actually like
Right.
Ticketmaster.com.
I don't know. I'm going to answer that one with an I don't know.
I think it depends on your search strategy. If you're referring to your desktop version of your site as canonical in all instances, then you don't expect your mobile site to show up in search. So for the motivations that we were showing today, it doesn't matter if it's on your mobile site. If you do expect the mobile site to be sort of a first-order destination, then it is useful for you to have the same structured markup that you're already using on your main site.
Okay, thanks.
Similar question. If we already have structured data in form of JSON or any sort of external API, is there a simple way to just link from our product page that you're crawling to where that structured data already is?
No. Don't think so. You mean if you have, so your data is not in the web page, but it's available on the web in some other format?
Yeah, I mean, most web pages get created from some sort of structured data already.
I see. Yeah, I see.
So if we already have that, in fact, we're creating our web pages from a back-end API already. So why not just give you a link to that instead of peppering our HTML page with that?
There is sort of philosophically to us a benefit to having the markup right in the user visible web page, because that's sort of to us the ultimate guarantee that the structured data we're showing corresponds to the user visible version of that data. And if you point us to the API directly and explain the mapping somehow that way, maybe that's right for your site, but in some other site the two data sources might get out of sync.
Well, the question was actually I thought of it based on his mobile question just previously. There are numerous ways to consume this same data that we're providing to our users, and so creating that structured data in every format of consumption, whether it's mobile or other third-party applications or web, it all points back to that same structured data in the first place. So kind of putting out multiple copies of all of the structured data seems confusing potentially for Google and others.
Well, it's just some lightweight HTML annotations on the presentation, and so if you're presenting it multiple ways, I don't think you should necessarily think of it as a huge burden to put those annotations on each different presentation.
But I also think that you're going to have a canonical version, or you can specify a canonical version, and so the canonical version, I believe, is what we're going to use, what we're going to refer to in search, not the other representations of the same page. So if the structured data is there in the canonical version, then we'll understand it. I mean, I'd also add that, as we saw in this little crying slide, we do understand lots of different formats, but as Justin said, we prefer to be on the page so that we can actually associate it with user visible data.
Yeah, it does seem like a single canonical version for the web, but then it seems like it'd be even better to have a single canonical version for all presentations of that same information.
Let's talk about this more.
Yeah, we'd love to keep talking. Looks like we're out of time, but thank you all.